Hello, Creative Gems. Welcome back to Creativity. And if you're new here, welcome to the Creative Gems family. Today I have this really old side table that I want to do a complete makeover on. This side table is about 25 years old, and I originally covered the tabletop with an old suede skirt that I cut up. Well, over the years, my style and home decor choices have changed, so today I'm going to glamify this table. By the time I'm done, you won't recognize this table and it will look like it came from a very high-end store. I'm starting off by tearing off the suede skirt covering. I had originally hot glued the fabric to the tabletop, so with a bit of elbow grease, it's actually not too hard to rip the fabric off. Cute cottage country look with a blue and white teapot painted in the center. The tabletop is made of a thick particle board or MDF, and the metal legs are a brown color. As part of this side table makeover, I'll want to redo the entire table, including both the legs and the tabletop. I'm going to start with the legs. I want the legs to have a chrome finish, so I'll be using a chrome paint pen. If you don't have any paint pens, you could also bring this table outside, turn it upside down, and spray paint the legs a metallic silver. And by the way, I'll leave links down below to my art supplies and materials, including a list of my favorite items in case you want to stock up with your own supplies. For now, I'm going to continue painting the legs with my chrome marker, and then I'll come back to show you the results. Okay, so it took me a while to paint the legs, but it's finally done, and here's what the legs look like. You can see a slight mirror-like reflection on the legs, just like you would if it were real chrome legs. Next, we're going to focus on the tabletop. I'm going to start by painting the entire tabletop white. I'll be using some leftover paint I have from my previous home reno, so the paint will be thick enough to completely cover the colors and design on the tabletop. And while we work on that, I would like to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to today's craft project. If you enjoy glam home decor and DIY crafts on a budget, help me grow my channel by hitting that subscribe button. And if you like what you see today, please give me a thumbs up as well. Your support will really help me continue providing you with more amazing and creative craft tutorials. And the best part is, subscribing and giving me a thumbs up is absolutely free, but will make a world of difference to me and my channel. With the tabletop painted, I'll let that dry while I work on the sides of the tabletop. So now the tabletop is fully dried and you can no longer see the original colors and design. We'll want to seal the paint so it will be easier to wipe down the table when it gets dirty. For that, I'm going to use Mod Podge. I'll also be using a foam brush to apply the Mod Podge because it won't leave brush strokes like a regular paintbrush with hair bristles. With that said, you could use a regular paintbrush and the Mod Podge will dry clear. You'll only notice the brush strokes if you look really closely. And by the way, Mod Podge comes in both matte and glossy versions. You can use either to seal the paint job, but I have chosen the glossy version because I have decided to marbleize the tabletop and I want to give it a slightly shiny finish to mimic real marble. After applying 2 generous coats of Mod Podge, I left the tabletop to fully dry, and now that it's dry, I'm going to go back in with a sponge to start marbling the tabletop. I have a tiny bit of silver metallic paint and I'm going to add a little bit of water into my plastic cup. To begin the marbling, I'll take the sponge and dip a small tip of the sponge into the paint and then dip the same tip into a bit of water to thin out the paint. Then to start creating the marbling, I will dab the sponge tip onto the tabletop in random sections of the tabletop. You'll notice some air bubbles appear, but don't worry about those as they will eventually disappear as we work through the marbling process. And the beauty of the marbling technique that I'm using today is that at any point in the process, if you make a mistake or you don't like the look because the color is too dark or too light, or you don't like the pattern, you can adjust all that along the way. You'll see me lighten the tabletop by adding more water to the sponge before dabbing it onto the tabletop. You'll also see me darken some spots by adding more paint with less water. And if there are too many strokes on the tabletop, just turn your sponge to a dry spot and dab the dry sponge area onto the tabletop to lift some of the paint. And if you're still with me, drop me a hello in the comment section with the word table so I know you visited. In the meantime, I'll continue to layer the paint with a bit of water until I'm satisfied with the overall color and pattern. And don't forget to dab the sides of the tabletop with your sponge as well. Then, when the paint is half dry, drag a dry part of the sponge across the tabletop in very short strokes. That will help feather out the paint and give the marbling effect a more natural look. There should be some darker feathering that gradually lightens, and you can keep doing this until you're satisfied with the pattern. Next, take the smallest paintbrush you have, preferably one with a very thin and narrow tip. We'll use that to create some veining on the tabletop. One tip to make your foam marble look more natural is to carry the veining to the edges and sides of the tabletop as well. The veining should be thin, not straight, and they should mimic the look of small tree branches. Some of the veining should extend longer than others, and some will also branch out to shorter ones. And it's not necessary to overdo the veining. A few in random spots starting from the edge of the tabletop should suffice. Once you're satisfied with the look of the tabletop, you'll want to seal it again with another layer of Mod Podge. Once again, I'm using the gloss Mod Podge to give the tabletop a bit of shine when the light hits it. And while we work on that, let me know down in the comments if you ever tried doing faux marble. And if so, I would be curious to know whether you used a paint technique like I did, or did you do something different to get the faux marble effect? I know Dollar Tree used to sell marble contact paper, and I have also seen faux marble kits at the hardware store. So there are different options depending on your skill level and preference. And here's the final look of the marble tabletop. It actually goes very well with the chrome legs that I painted. But I have to admit, I'm not too happy with the table makeover yet. It's still looking very plain, so I went ahead and I applied a strip of mirror tiles all around the sides of the tabletop. The mirror tiles actually match the legs now, and I think this looks much nicer. You can even see when the light hits the tabletop, there is a bit of a shine coming off the faux marble tabletop. The only thing is, I'm still not completely satisfied with the tabletop itself, as I think I put a bit too much paint on the tabletop. It looks a little bit too dark for my taste. So to give the table a different look, I'm going to take this round tray I have had for just as long as the side table, and I'm going to glamify this tray so we can place it on the tabletop. The first thing I'm going to do is trace out where I will want to apply the paint. For the center of the tray, I'm going to be placing a 12-inch round mirror inside, so we won't need to paint the center of the tray. So I'll just trace out the border. With the border traced out, I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest of the tray white using my leftover paint. And it's a good thing that this paint I'm using is thick, because otherwise it would be very difficult to cover the original brown finish. If you have an old tray that is dark that you want to paint, I would actually suggest applying a coat of good quality primer first before painting it. The primer will really help cover the original dark color and will also help bind the paint to the tray so the paint won't be easy to scratch off. And now with the paint all dry, I'm going to cover the center with this 12-inch round wooden palette because I want to create a frame around the mirror that will place in the center. We'll start by applying a layer of Mod Podge all around the wood palette to prep the surface. And if you're still with me, pop a note into the comments section with the words tray table so I know you visited. Next, we're going to sprinkle some silver glitter where the Mod Podge was applied. I'm using the most fine glitter, but you can also use larger, chunkier glitter as well. And when sprinkling the glitter, try to sprinkle it as evenly as possible. If you find some white spots where there is no glitter, it's likely because you didn't apply enough Mod Podge into those spots. So go back in and fill those spots with more Mod Podge and then sprinkle the glitter on top. Then leave the tray for an hour or so to allow the glitter to set in place. You can then use your fingers to test the surface to see if any glitter comes off onto your fingers. If so, you can either add another coat of Mod Podge and let it dry again, or in my case, I discovered that if you simply use some hairspray, it does the job just as well and it takes much less time to dry. Next, I'm going to apply mini mirror tiles all along the sides of the tray. The mini mirror tiles are self-adhesive, so no additional glue is going to be required. And these mini mirror tiles can be cut to size to the exact number of rows you need. And if you're still with me, comment down below with the words tray table so I know you dropped by. I would actually be curious to know if you ever tried to make over one of your furniture pieces. And if so, what type of furniture did you make over and how did it turn out? So far, I have done several side tables, including this one. I've done some chairs, a piano bench, and for my next furniture makeover, I'll be conquering an IKEA storage bench that is about 20 years old. And as you can see, really you can get amazing and beautiful results with just a little bit of paint, some mirrors, and some gems. For the handles of this tray, I decided to add a bit of bling by applying a small strip of this rhinestone ribbon. It serves a dual purpose because it will also hide a small gap where the mini mirror tiles didn't fit. Now I'm going to work on the outside of the tray. I'll start with applying 3 rows of the rhinestone ribbon we used earlier. This rhinestone ribbon is self-adhesive, can be cut to size, and is flexible, so you can manipulate it to the shape of the tray. Next, I'll apply these mini mirror tiles all around the sides of the tray. You'll notice that I left a bit of space to apply a second strip of rhinestone ribbon to the top edge of the tray as well. I think this tray is really shaping out and it's quite beautiful already. I love how the mini mirror tiles and the rhinestone ribbon are both so pretty and so easy to work with. For that reason, they are some of my most favorite craft materials to work with. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll leave links down below in the description box in case you would like to stock up on these craft materials as well. With the mini mirror tiles and the strips of rhinestone ribbon applied, we're getting closer to finishing the tray makeover. We're now ready to adhere the 12-inch round mirror into the center of the tray. To do that, I'm applying a very strong adhesive to the back of the mirror. You can use either E6000 or in my case, I have chosen Fixo since I already have that from my last Dollar Tree haul. Make sure when applying the glue or the adhesive that you don't go too close to the edge of the mirror as you don't want any of that glue to ooze out the edges. Now let's go ahead and place the mirror into the tray. You'll want to let it sit for at least a few hours or preferably overnight to give enough time for the adhesive to fully cure. I'm also going to sit something heavy on top of the mirror to ensure it's tightly secured to the tray. Okay, I left the tray overnight and now I'm going to go back in and just put a few finishing touches onto the tray. I'll be covering the seams between the glitter and the mini mirror tiles with a string of silver beaded necklace. The beads have a reflective finish, so it will look perfect against the mini mirror tiles. To adhere the beads, a little bit of hot glue is all you need. And make sure you don't apply too much because you don't want the hot glue clumps oozing out of the seams. And if you're still with me, drop me a note with the word tray table so I know you visited. Alright, we have one more embellishment to add to this tray before we're done. I have four small silver ornament balls left over from Christmas. We're also going to need four diamond-shaped gems. These are from Dollarama and will be perfect for us to build beautiful legs for our tray. First, we'll remove the caps off each of the ornament balls and then we'll use a good pair of scissors to snip off the tips where the cap used to be. Then we'll take one of the diamond-shaped gems and insert the pointy end into the hole of one of the ornament balls. To keep the gem in place, I'll apply a small dollop of hot glue. We'll repeat these steps until we have four legs completed. And if you don't have any ornament balls or you can't find the diamond-shaped gems, you could also grab four crystal cabinet doorknobs and use those as legs instead. I guarantee you the legs will really amp up the glam factor of your tray. And here are what the four custom made legs look like. I've gone ahead and flipped my tray over and now we'll simply adhere each of the four legs onto the bottom of the tray in a square pattern. There are actually two ways you can adhere the legs to the tray, either by sticking the gem to the tray or in my case I have chosen to stick the ornament ball to the tray instead. That way you can see the diamond gem when the tray is set on the tabletop. I think it will give a bit of extra elegance and a more upscale look to the tray. And here's the final look for our tray. Doesn't this look completely different from the original tray? It's both beautiful and functional. And I currently have the tray sitting on top of the side table we made over earlier. But you can always take the tray and set it somewhere else. I think both pieces look absolutely stunning separately as well as together. Comment down below with the word table tray and let me know what you think. In the meantime, I hope you stick around and check out some of my other glam home decor crafts.